The Auburn-Lewiston Municipal Airport is located in Auburn, Maine, and was created in 1935. This airport is operated by both Auburn and Lewiston. The Auburn-Lewiston Municipal Airport was first owned by Ronald McHugh. This man had never had flying lessons in his life, but at age 16 he taught himself how to fly. The airport started out as an airport for private planes. Then later on, commercial flights started coming in and out of the airport, and then it went back to how it is now, where private planes are free to come and go as they please. The airport was going good for about a year, but just like anything else, there was problems. Lewiston wanted to quit on the airport project altogether. The matter was so important that representatives from both cities made a trip together to Augusta to consult with WPA officials. In the end, Lewiston obviously didn't break away because Lewiston still owns half the airport today. In the late 1930s, there were many aviation shows at this airport. This was mainly to promote the new founded airport. Sometimes admission was free, but if it did cost something, the price was cheap and was well worth it, considering how great the shows were. These shows included exhibition flying, racing, parachute jumping, and some people could even get rides in the planes. They would sometimes even give free lessons. The WPA, or the Works Progress Administration, which was part of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's alphabet agencies, had really helped out the Auburn-Lewiston Municipal Airport a lot. By the early 1940s, the WPA had spent about $324,000 on the airport, plus the airport received $25,000 from sponsors. At first, the project the WPA was mainly focusing on was building a huge reservoir for the town of Lewiston, but plans changed and they needed to do some work on the airport. This was the most expensive project for the year, but it was worth it. The work they were doing this time was all about the runways. They widened and resurfaced the runways already existing, and they also added a new runway. Plus, they installed adequate lighting. As you can see, there was a lot of work being put into the airport in the early 1940s. By October of 1943, the airport was being used a lot by the Navy. Then, by February of 1946, the Auburn-Lewiston Municipal Airport started a seafood industry, where they flew refrigerated seafood along with Maine produce to Florida and the Midwest. This would help both Maine's seafood industry along with the airport. By the 1950s, the airport was the third busiest airport in the state. But just because it was the third busiest didn't mean that it made much of a profit. The expense to keep the airport up and running almost always exceeded the income that they made, which put them in debt. A $10,000 bond was issued to the airport to help it get back up on its feet.
This doesn't mean that the local venture in operation of a municipal airport was a paying proposition. Far from it. Operating expenses borne equally by the two cities and Henry M. Dingley Jr., airport operator, have always exceeded income. There is no reason to assume that the 1950s will be any different. Lewiston Daily Sun, January 23, 1951.
The 1960s was a very exciting time for Auburn-Lewiston. In fact, John Ford Kennedy was paying a visit in November of 1960. This was an extremely big deal. Everyone was so excited and people were coming from all over Maine to participate in this JFK rally. The police were left with one big issue: parking. There were so many people and not enough room for all of the cars. But the police handled that and they somehow managed to fit everyone.
In his plea to Lewiston residents to leave their cars at home as an aid to the huge traffic problem, Bonenfant said he anticipates 15,000 Lewiston residents will attend the City Park rally for Kennedy. Lewiston Daily Sun, November 5th, 1960.
The best part was that Kennedy was flying here into the Auburn-Lewiston Municipal Airport. This was a very exciting event. Police officers from all over Maine, but mostly Lewiston and Auburn, had a job. Some helped protect Kennedy while others dealt with the crazy fans. In 1961, the thought of expanding the airport went into play, although at this point, City Council was just not ready to invest $5 million more into the airport. Both the Auburn and the Portland airports were pretty popular at this time, and people began to think, what if these airports were combined into a giant airport? Portland's commercial service is a lot more popular than Auburn's is, but Portland's airport is just too small and can't handle these big planes like Auburn can. If they moved airports to a bigger area, the business would be much better and the state would actually make a profit off these airports. Many people were thinking of locating the airport in Gray.
The Twin Cities have much at stake in an area airport. So has Portland, the state's largest city. If leaders of the three communities combine their thinking and efforts, the future of air transportation for all will be much brighter. Lewiston Daily Sun, November 4th, 1961.
Things were beginning to be cut like crazy, and it just made the whole airport suffer. These cuts were being made by Northeast Airlines. The state is saying that if Northeast Airlines isn't prepared to start treating the airport better, then they'd just be looking for another airline service for the airport. It all boils down to the fact that Northeast Airlines is just not doing well financially. A man by the name of Wilbur Smith has made a recommendation of a 4.2-mile extension of the highway in Auburn. This would make for the development of a major industrial park. This park would extend all the way out to Poland. In 1972, a 25-year-old man from the Navy, Richard C. Rooney, became the new manager of the airport. Rooney's office would be in the terminal building. Rooney's duties included running the airport on a day-to-day basis, to contact all of the tenants who leased the space at the airport facility, and much, much more. In 1974, a major project was undertaken. More improvements were being added to the airport. The total cost of this project was $104,000. This project was being funded by the federal and state money. The project was going to improve the airport use during stormy weather. Without this system, the airport was pretty much useless because planes couldn't land or take off in bad weather. With better lighting on the runways and other solutions, the airport would soon be useful even during the worst weather. By the 1970s, the thought of airport authority came about. The authority would have the right to purchase or acquire any property rights, whether located in Auburn or not, extend runways and related facilities over or across the public highways. The authority would be managed by a board of 5 directors. It may sound complicated, but it may just be what the airport needs to get back up on its feet.
Auburn and Lewiston citizens should express their support of legislation that would set up a Lewiston-Auburn Airport Authority. Such a method of administering the local airport operation would be a marked improvement on the existing system, which includes a special Twin City Airport Committee that has no legal authority and the need for the city councils of both municipalities to make decisions on specific issues concerning the airport. Lewiston Evening Journal, January 29th, 1975.
In 1975, the airport almost went out of business. Air New England, the main airline that the airport was using at the time, had quit on them, which left them with no commercial airlines. The idea of an industrial park continues to keep popping up into the conversation. Officials made a trip down to an airport industrial park in Manchester to see what it was like. By the 1980s, there was an increase in private flying and a decrease in commercial flying. In fact, in 1981, the amount of people flying out of Auburn commercially went down by 35% of an already low number. More and more people were beginning to fly out of Portland instead. On August 25, 1985, there was a very tragic accident at the Auburn airport. Samantha Smith, a little schoolgirl from Maine, was just 13 years old when she died. Samantha was not just a normal girl who went to school. She was different. She wanted world peace. In fact, she wanted it so badly that she wrote a letter to the Soviet Union about the Cold War. The letter was to Yuri Andropov, the leader of the Soviet Union at the time. Yuri had invited her to come to Russia and visit and attend a local summer camp for children. He said he wanted world peace, not war, just like she did. Samantha was already making a difference in the world, and she was only 10 years old at the time she wrote the letter.
Samantha captured the hearts of everyone as a peace ambassador to the Soviet Union. Samantha was an inspiration not only to young like herself, but to all of us. The Palm Beach Post, August 26, 1985.
Sadly, we'll never know what she could have accomplished because she passed away in a plane accident at the Auburns Municipal Airport. She was on her way home from England, where she was shooting a movie. It was her last flight until she was home. The flight was coming from Boston and it was on its way to Auburn when it exploded about half a mile away from the airport in a wooded area. Samantha and her father, along with 6 others, died in the tragic accident.
It is difficult to believe that the voice of this wonderful American girl will not sound again, said a common mentor on Soviet televisions today in this world program. Palm Beach Post, August 26, 1985.
By the 1990s, the airport was in even more trouble. Costs for everything began to go up. Even the cost to land at the airport went from $5 to $7, and tying down a plane would go from $25 to $30. Things were just getting worse and worse for the airport.
Because nationally, small airports like Auburn's are going under, everyone agreed on the need for an effective marketing strategy to attract flyers. Sun Journal, May 7, 1993.
The airport received a grant to help repave a major runway that was cracked and bumpy. A new runway would make for a much smoother landing, and it would also just make the airport look better. Right now, the airport has very little activity. Some people will donate their money to the airport. Only private planes come in and out of the airport every once in a while. The Portland Airport is now very popular, while the Auburn isn't so important. But one part of the Auburn Airport is doing pretty well. The industries around the airport are excelling. The Runway Corner Store has great Italians, if I do say so myself. And it's a great little corner store, while the industrial park itself is doing well. There are many businesses thriving there. It came out much better than the airport did.